Hey y'all, it's Kobe R. Rice. Oh, you can tell that it's been a doozy of a week. Like my voice even cracked when I was saying hey to you guys. This is Kobe R. Rice back again for another weekly update on my epic fantastical journey into writer infamy. And as you'll notice, my voice is not only cracking, but it's also a little muted because I am a little tired. And it's actually not because of graduate school, at least not quite yet. Um, as luck would have it, or rather, as bad luck would have it, and this happens to me for whatever reason, literally at the beginning of every single semester. Recently, like, I've just had like this really strange string of just like bad luck. I mean, I even hate speaking it because it's like speaking the evil into existence, but I'm just going to call it what it is. Just like bad luck from like, just it literally feels as though like if you looked up the seven biblical plagues, like that has happened, with the exception of like the water turning to blood and like the frogs and I guess maybe with the exception of the actual like biblical plagues part, but still like it has just felt like so many crazy things have been happening that literally have nothing to do with graduate school. And this happens to me every single semester. Last semester, unfortunately, as you guys might know, my grandmother passed away. But then, so I had to like leave graduate school for a few days in the first week and a half, which really put me behind on a lot of projects and stuff. You know, it's just a part of life. Like death affects us in very different ways, and in some for some of us in all ways. Um, I mean, but I had that combined with a whole series of just crazy things happening that really were just served as major unnecessary distractions. Or falling ill, which I tend to do for whatever reason because my daughter's in daycare every single semester at the very beginning. There's always something going around her daycare. She catches it, I catch it, and it completely knocks me off my horse the first 2 weeks of graduate school, which can be really disconcerting and really discouraging, because like that's when you're most excited to be back in school. And you're just like on top of your game and you're like, you have all your plans set up and, you've got your schedule together, you're getting your books, you're on top of your homework, and then suddenly you just get wiped out for the first week or so. I have to say, like, comparing my graduate school experiences, this graduate school experience, now that I have a child, is completely different from my original graduate school experience. Like, when I was getting my PhD, which turned out to be my master's, at UW-Madison, I literally never got sick. Never, ever. I guess I was also like a little younger then, pushing longer days. It was just like very much all about me, just rotating and orbiting around me. And because I didn't have all these sort of extra variables and factors, like my life wasn't really outside of my control. But when you have to, care for a young child, or you're dealing with a whole bunch of other things in like your social circle, your personal circle, your family circle, etc., as you tend to have to do when you get older, there are sort of fewer things out of your control. And you sort of become a lot more aware that you yourself are yeah, you're the only person. I can even get my grammar on point. That's how bad it is. Let me just get myself together. You yourself are the only thing that you can genuinely control, but sometimes even that is not true, especially when you get sick, as I did this past week, which is why I'm coming to you guys late with this. So I'm sorry for the late update, but that's just what's been going on, just craziness. Anyway, this is podcast number 37 being recorded on Wednesday, August 30th, 2017. And there's actually not that much to report today because, like I said, I've just been dealing with all this other extra academic stuff. Not extra, like I have more academic stuff, but I mean outside of academic stuff. That has nothing to do with my writing or graduate school, so I wasn't really able to get much writing or graduate school stuff done. So there's not really much to report, with the exception of the fact that I do want to come to you guys with an update on graduate school itself. You guys would have noticed in the weeks leading up to grad school getting back into full swing, I became less and less enthusiastic and excited about what was waiting for me in graduate school. Even though, like, this semester, arguably, like on paper, I knew I was going to have a better semester. But, sometimes experience is the best teacher. And for me, at least at this point in my life, I base my expectations on past behavior and demonstrated empirical data. I don't really try to, I stay enthusiastic and optimistic, but I don't try to convince myself or trick myself into thinking that things are going to be different than what they've already shown me to be. And I was having a really frustrating ass conversation with a family member recently, about like an individual that I have to deal with in my personal circle, by necessity, not because I want to. And my family member made the comment like, "Oh, well, why don't you just, give him a chance to show him to be different or more responsible or whatever." And it just sounded so stupid to me. I mean, no offense, and this is, family member who has lived experience dealing with people never really changing. And it just sounded like really I wouldn't say deconstructive, but like unhelpful, inoperative, and essentially unhealthy advice to assume that a certain individual or a certain thing is going to change when it has shown absolutely no indications of change. That's like the definition of insanity to me. And for me to base my expectations or my schedule or, any facts of my life or any issues in my life on like the predication that this person or thing is going to change makes no sense whatsoever. So yeah, it was just like a frustrating conversation to have. And so I'll just to let you guys know, I know a lot of you guys, if you listen to this, are a little bit younger, which is great. But just as like a life lesson, just for personal use, artistic use, creative use, and business use, when someone or something shows you what it is, believe it, believe them, believe him, believe her, and decide what it is you're going to do based on that information and then move forward. Like, don't move back assuming that the person or thing or situation is going to change, especially if you're not being shown any hardcore data that that person or thing or situation is actually changing. You know what I'm saying? It just, for me personally at this juncture, doing things repetitively that yield no results that look different or divergent is a waste of time. It's a waste of energy and is literally the definition of insanity. And when you are a hustler, whether that be a creative hustler, artistic, financial hustler, entrepreneurial hustler, whatever it is you do, you really do not have the latitude to give your time and energy to people who are full of shit or to situations that are full of shit. So just keep that in mind. I mean, that was sort of a tangent off of graduate school, but I say all that to say that I didn't have really many high expectations in terms of what to expect artistically when I was going into this graduate program this semester. I was expecting it to feel very scholarly, very academic, and based on my previous experiences. But I'm really happy to report, to move from my cynicism to optimism, that I am really enjoying graduate school thus far. Now, mind you, like, this is only the second week of this semester, and I've been sick for most of it. So, so take that with a grain of salt. But for the classes that I did attend the first week of classes until I got literally knocked out completely on Friday afternoon, dealing with like everything else. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the perspective we're taking in our classes, the projects that I get to do in our classes, which I'll talk about in just a second. The fact that all of the classes that I'm taking have artistic leanings or exercise different parts of my brain. it just feels like such a major breath of fresh air after last year. Now, having gone through this first week and still going through the second week, I will give more perspective to the graduate program that I'm in, because I still feel like it's a great program regardless of whether or not it meets my personal artistic expectations. I still think it's a great program. But just comparatively, I now realize, sort of having taken a step back, that the first year of the program, if you, especially this is if you want to ever apply to my program, if you are identifying as a hardcore artist or a hardcore creative, the first year of this program is going to suck a lot of balls. I mean, it just is. And not because the program is bad, but because the first year, as with any graduate program, is about taking all of your core requirements and getting those out of the way. And being a dramaturg, that means you're getting a lot of research methodology stuff out the way, a lot of history, art history. So if you're into art history, then you're great, fine, whatever. You're getting like a lot of art historical perspectives out of the way. Historical, cultural perspectives out of the way. And a lot of that requires that you read like a lot of articles, a lot of textbooks, and read a lot of academic papers, which is not really my thing. So I was not feeling that at all. But it is what it is. You're getting a lot of dramatic theory out of the way, which again is about reading a lot of dense ass shit. Excuse the cursing. And then synthesizing all those dense, boring, sometimes very obscure and nonsensical theories into a paper that makes sense, which can be devastatingly difficult. And it depends on how much prior training you have had in theory. For me, synthesizing and analyzing the theory is not so much the issue and challenge for me, because I'm sort of practiced at doing it. I know I could always be a lot better. Trust me, if you ask my professors, they have a lot of comments on my my theoretical prowess. But I know that that part, that the analytical part, is not so much the issue for me. It's just I hate theory. That's the thing. That's really the challenge and the obstacle I have to get over, is that I feel as though I can pretty much tackle any subject unless it completely bores me. If it bores me, then I'm just not invested. I don't care. Get out my face. It's very excruciating, painful. And as you guys know, I made a very staunch commitment. That's it. That is, if you were listening to the podcast, you would know that I made a very staunch commitment to moving away from academia, theorizing, and all that stuff in a very significant way after I left my previous program. And so having to come back and do it again was literally just like nails on a fucking chalkboard. It really was. So if you're not really into that, you're not into theory, you're not into history, you're not into research methodology, then the first year of at least this particular program in dramaturgy is going to be very challenging for a lot of you artists. If you're pretty much an open book or you're more scholarly leaning, the first year is going to be, pretty okay for you. You won't breeze through it unless you just have theory on lock like that and you just know it all and all you're doing is summarizing what you already know. If you're one of those people, then by all means sit back and relax and enjoy the first year and you're good. But if you are learning new theory, new history, synthesizing all of that, and you're going to hate it, you're going to have some issues. If you love it, then you're going to do great. And you're going to enjoy the first year. But as I was saying, like the first year of every program is basically you taking a lot of theory, history, core requirements with a sprinkling and smattering of art. So the projects that I did get to do that were very encouraging and life-giving and gave me air to breathe were the projects I did in my production dramaturgy class and in my playwriting class. Those were pretty much the only two artistic outlets that I had. The other classes that I took last semester, in addition to all of the other theory and history, one of them was a film theory class. And that was still, it wasn't bad. Like, it wasn't a bad class. It was actually a pretty great class. And that was still a challenge emotionally for me, because I just wasn't about the theory. I was not about writing these papers and all this craziness, but I was more inclined to enjoy that class because I have a very deep interest in film. And I feel like film theory, even though it tries to come at film from a very academic perspective, it always teaches me something new that I can literally apply to the craft of filmmaking. So for me, it felt more hands-on and more practical than my other theory courses. So I actually enjoyed that course a lot. And I also got to make my own project in that course, which was supposed to be a documentary. But then as I started to hone down my cases for my research, I realized that I didn't have enough material to create and cut a documentary, at least not yet. That might still be coming in the future. I mean, who knows? Because Black women in horror is something that not only I'm interested in, but several other people and blogs are interested in. And so maybe this can be like a joint effort in the future if I ever really feel like I want to get that documentary off the ground. So I did a lot of artistic stuff in my last year's program. In the first year of my program, I mean, through my playwriting and production dramaturgy classes, and that was really exciting. Like, we got to put on an actual reading in both classes, which is great. I love spending time in the studio. I love voice acting badly. And I do not have any shame in admitting that I'm a terrible voice actor, but I love it all the same. I really, really enjoy standing up at, one of the music stands with my script in hand and just bringing all this life to a character, even if I'm doing it badly. I really enjoy doing that. I enjoy curating work. Oh, that's an interesting term, curating, where maybe like you write the work and you curate it at the same time. Anyway, that's a whole separate issue, but something to think about for all you creative dramaturgs out there. I really enjoy curating work. So that means bringing together a whole bunch of different pieces, perspectives, and just bringing work together and arranging it into a format or a show or a production that puts forward an interesting theme for whatever theater or company or organization you are working for. So we did a lot of practice with dramaturgical curation and basically with creating a production, which, gives us a lot of hands-on stuff in creating seasons for theaters and stuff like that. And that was really exciting. Playwriting obviously was very exciting for me. And all the other projects I did pretty much happened outside of my graduate program, that first year. So if you're looking to get it to be a part of this program, just realize that your first core year is going to be really challenging. It's going to be difficult. And you will have opportunities for artistic outlets and productions, but you have to sort of make those opportunities on your own, if you get what I mean. And there's nothing wrong with that, actually. If it will teach you how to hustle creatively, that's for sure. And so I did a lot of novel writing my first year, which was for myself and my company, Rebel Ragdoll. I did a lot of screenwriting, preparing the Sandman film. I co-directed my first on-stage piece through the Martin Luther King celebration day here at University of Arizona in Tucson. One thing that I did do, actually, that was a part of my academic program, is that my program signed me up for an elective called theater management, and I really, really enjoyed that elective. That was one of the classes that I enjoyed a lot in my first semester of being here, and pretty much gave me a really great outlet and helped me produce a portfolio. Basically, I produced a sample production book that I can literally show, theaters or whatever, if I want to go apply for a job, to show them that I know how to do this kind of stuff as a stage manager. Even though I really don't want to be a stage manager that's crazy making, but I respect stage managers. And basically, like, the film version of a stage manager is the assistant director. I respect ADs and SMs to no end. So much so that I know myself well enough to know that I cannot do that job. And it takes a very special individual to do that kind of job. And the teacher who was teaching us that theater management class indeed was very special and is very special. And, like, I love her. And that class actually turned out to teach me a lot about not just management for the stage, but like what an assistant director does on a film set, because essentially a lot of what we do in film is based on theater, even though it's been adapted to film. So I took that class, and that was great. And then I took like some other artistic courses that had nothing to do with the university or my program. So just long story short, or long story long actually, if you're looking to supplement your life as a creative, like you're always going to have to hustle on your own, even if you sometimes are in a MFA program. Like you might have to look outside of your circle, to like not just your social or personal circle, but your academic circle, in order to get what you need creatively. So because this podcast is essentially entitled The First Week of Graduate School, I'm giving like a lot of graduate schooly advice, but I feel like it's appropriate. Anyway, I said that this was going to be short, so let's shorten this up a little bit. So my total word count for this past week was, let's see, 4,562 words, which is nice. It's more than the bare minimum of 3,500 words, which is 500 words a day. And that's great. And I'm excited about that. But I really want to like not be sick, so I can like double that or even triple that. So we'll see what happens. But I have to say, I've done a little bit of math, and for like the first 5 months of the year, I was sort of bumbling around on my writing at an average of like 4,600 words a month. And then literally as of June, July, August, I've been averaging about 20,000 words a month. So you can see what like a lack of day-to-day like involvement in graduate school can do for one's writing. But I am actually at this point determined to reach a really happy medium where I'm doing all of my graduate school and teaching assistant stuff during the day, but I'm still making my numbers. Right now I'm still doing pretty well, even considering the fact that I was knocked out for like almost a week. At the end of this month, I would have written over 20,000 words, which is great. If you do that pretty much every month for the whole year, you have 240,000 words. That's literally like 4 books a year. You know what I'm saying? So this is something that I'm really excited about getting on point and basically keeping up with. And I'm just really trying to gun towards that happy middle. So wish me luck in terms of keeping up my writing pace. And I am just generally very excited about the fact that in some very roundabout, crazy way, I'm keeping to my commitment of improving my writing consistency in my day-to-day routine, but also increasing my writing speed and increasing my writing output. That was a very clear objective for me at the beginning of the year, and it's clear that at this point I have made a significant amount of progress towards that objective. So that's really exciting, just sort of as a side note, because I know I'm talking about graduate school for this podcast, but like writing is still a thing. It's always a thing, every single day, every week, and I'm excited for it. I'm here for it. A couple of other things that I did is that I also started, I wouldn't even say started, but I continued my development of my badass TV series production template, which basically I'm working on for myself, so that Rebel Ragdoll Productions has an in-house company template that we use to develop and produce TV series. But it's also a template that when I have perfected it, I would like to make it available to the public for a nominal fee, because we have to live, we have to make money, and we have to fund our projects. So, and most of the stuff that I do, you guys get for free. So you can pay like $20 for this template. So I've been working on that because I have 2 major ideas in my head, one of which is the adapted TV form of the Books of Ezekiel series. And as I explained to you guys a couple of podcasts ago, I have really started to solidify the structure of the Books of Ezekiel series such that the volumes appear in seasonal arcs. And I'm doing that not only because it just helps me as a writer, but it also really lends itself to adaptation into either movie format, which is great, but I would prefer TV format. So I'm going to be working on something I've been working on since, like, I don't know, 2015, which is the continued TV adaptation of the Books of Ezekiel series. And the TV series is going to just be called Ezekiel, but it's going to be a kick-ass dystopian sci-fi slash urban fantasy, like, actually urban epic fantasy, because it's so long and so big and it's so sweeping. It's basically an urban fantasy, but like on an epic scale with a dystopian sci-fi twist. So I'm developing the TV series template so that I can develop seasons and episodes based off of the Books of Ezekiel series, sort of like what they did with Game of Thrones, but with more seasons. So I'm developing that, and then I'm also working on my serialized novel slash TV series Immortal, and so I'm developing the concepts for that. So I've basically really just jumped in feet first, or jumped back into the development of my TV series aspect of Rebel Ragdoll Productions. And that doesn't mean I've abandoned my other projects. Like Sandman is still going, Sandman is still being developed, Sandman is still being written, and still in pre-production and development, and that's still going forward. That is very much on schedule for now. But, you know, I just sort of go with my creative instincts, shall I say. And I have put in a little bit of time each day to develop the TV aspect of Rebel Ragdoll Productions, right alongside the feature film aspect of Rebel Ragdoll Productions, that's dealing with Sandman. So that's happening, and that's exciting. And once I have that template, I will make that available, as I said. And what else have I been working for or on? Oh, the Addams Family. I'm working, so I told you guys like way back that I'm working on the Addams Family musical here as the dramaturg. And, you know, it's an interesting experience thus far. I wouldn't say that I am necessarily a part of the production as much as I am like an assistant to the production. So basically, I'm pretty much just working on my own project within the Addams Family musical, which will include and does include developing a protocol, doing the historical background of the Addams Family, looking at the themes that are going on in the not just in the play, but like with the franchise. You know, basically summarizing all of the mediums that the Addams Family has appeared in, from the comic to the movies to, I believe there was also a cartoon. So I'll be doing all of that, setting up a website, dealing with audience engagement, development, social media outreach, and I'll probably also include like a character history and study of all the families of the Addams Family, and just putting all of that onto a website that the actors and the directors can access. And so I am functioning as a dramaturg, but I'm still very much externalized to the project. And I'm actually like, last semester or last year, I would have been really annoyed that I didn't feel as integrated with the project as I feel a dramaturg should be. But at this point, I'm just sort of over it, and I'm just here to get as much experience and as much exposure to the entire process as possible. So I'm just trying to like do my dramaturgical thing, no matter how externalized I am, and then also just learn about what it takes to put on a musical. You know, I just love musicals, so I'll be going to the rehearsals, maybe not all the rehearsals, but a lot of rehearsals. I'll be taking notes, I'll be writing, and I'll also be doing this not just for my own edification as a director and a lover of musicals, but also basically as the person who has to write up the program note and talk to the audience about what this entire process was about, what this production was about, what the spirit of it was about. And you can't really get a beat on that unless you're there in the room, getting the feel of what's happening with the director and everything like that. So, there's a lot of things that I need to do dramaturgically from an external perspective, but then also I need to do a lot of stuff internally, just, yeah, not just only just serving as a dramaturg, but serving as a student for my own future production. So I'm really excited because I love musicals. I love horror. I really enjoy goth horror, and I've always loved the Addams Family. So this is like a really interesting and fun production to be on, even if I'm not as integrated as I would like to be. And on top of that, I do realize too that at least as things stand here with this brand new program, the dramaturgs themselves, myself included, we have to make efforts and overtures to step into our power and our role as dramaturgs. I think it's very easy, and this is something to think about if you're thinking about joining a dramaturgy program in the future. It's easy to succumb to the spirit of the institution and just accept your place. And, I think to a certain extent that can be good because it allows you a certain level of self-preservation. It lowers your aggravation. It lowers your angst and anxiety, because sometimes when you come in trying to change City Hall does not budge or move for you, and that can be very frustrating, even if City Hall is like wrong or there's something to be improved. And sometimes stepping into that and just backing up and just being a cog in the machine can be very life-saving and just spiritually saving. Other times, though, there are places wherein you as that cog can decide to move to different parts in the gear system, to make the machine work better. You might not be running the machine, you might not be changing the machine, but you might be just forming the way or informing the way in which the machine works and turns its gears. And I think that that's sort of the metaphor I'm going to go into and sort of live in as I work through this production. Just get in where I fit in and see where I can best serve the production ultimately. Maybe me being on the production from the beginning and forming the show and advocating for the writer is not my role on this particular production, but it can be my role in other productions in the future. And, you have to really step back and ask yourself, where can I put my energy that it will be best served and that it will best serve the production? And, how can I get the most sort of educationally out of this experience? So you really need to know when to challenge the institution and the status quo, and when to walk away from the status quo and do your own thing, and then when to work within the status quo. Like, you have to sort of develop a dramaturgical wisdom. And for those of you who are going to be dramaturgs in the future, please realize that if you do want to be a certain kind of dramaturg, you don't have to step into a system that is not really being flexible in how it sees you. As a dramaturg, you can decide to form either your own theater company or form really great working relationships with artists, with directors, with artistic directors, and help to shape their work and how they do things from the beginning, and just then work with those people for your career. A lot of people do that. One of the dramaturgs here does that. So this individual who's amazing sometimes is a little bit just, I wouldn't say perplexed. I think they're very well versed in the field of dramaturgy, far more versed than I am. But just they don't really deal with situations wherein they are not a guiding voice in the room and a guiding light in the room, as a dramaturg should be, in my opinion, because they have formed their own networks with theater companies and people and troupes that they have worked with for literally years. And so the dramaturg being in the room and a part of the process is a no-brainer. It's non-negotiable. Like in terms, the dramaturg is expected to be there and is a part of the process, period, full stop, no conversations. In other circles, as I have discovered, because I'm very new to this field, that conversation is not a given. And the dramaturg's position in a theater company or in a troupe or in a production sometimes is very much negotiable, and sometimes can be completely removed altogether if you do not advocate for yourself. So there are very many ways to be a dramaturg and to participate dramaturgically in a theater production. And I'm learning what those ways are. And my first experience here was kind of like all over the place and very confusing for me. I think it was confusing for like everybody else too, because we're all still trying to figure it out. But this semester, I think I have my feet a little bit more, and I'm going to just take a self-guided tour of this process. So that's basically what's been going on that front. A piece of unfortunate news, which I really didn't want to have to report, is that I got removed from my combat for the stage class. Not because I was like being bad or naughty or anything, but because some straggling ass undergraduates who did not plan life and did not plan their academic trajectories needed to take the course. And I, as the graduate student taking this as a graduate elective, was basically removed from the course, or asked to drop the course to make room for these other people who just straggled, as far as I'm concerned, which was very unfortunate because I was really, really looking forward to that. I was looking forward to getting certified as an active combatant. I've been talking about it like literally for the past 4 months, and now I can't even take the class. At least, I mean, I can next semester, next year, or not next semester, but next year. But I'm just afraid that the same issue will pop up again and that I'm going to get removed again. And so, we'll see what happens. I don't hold any bitterness towards it. I'm actually more frustrated with the undergrads than I am with the professor because, this is supposedly a required course for other people. But if it's a required course, that means that should be one of the first courses you register for. And I, with my advisor, deliberately waited until like all the courses like were full, and there's like a waiting period that you have to wait to see if any stragglers are going to take the course, and then if there is room in the course, I get the position. And we did everything right, and I still got bumped out of the class even though I was registered for the 3 credits. It was just crazy. And I'm just sad about it. This is not really advice that's going to help you much in your own creative journey towards an MFA, but just know that some programs don't really know what to do with graduate students, and I think we're still trying to figure that out here at our program. And that as a graduate student, I hate to say this because it sounds really spoiled, but you basically are the golden children, because you're essentially the future of the profession, and you're not only are you the future of the profession, but you're the future of academia. So graduate students basically get treated like the golden children. Like, you pretty much get whatever you want, and as long as it like pertains to your course of study and will help enrich you. And you're supposed to be essentially like prioritized. I mean, again, it sounds privileged, but this is just how it is. Like, you are prioritized above undergraduates, usually not because undergraduates are not important, but because a lot of undergraduates go to college just to get credentialed. A lot of undergraduates don't even really want to be in college. And a lot of them just kind of coast and party and have fun. And graduate students have already shown their prowess in undergrad, have already made the perfect scores, are already at like the creme de la creme, top of the heap, and are now choosing to further their studies as either artists, scholars, or both. And the faculty usually pours their resources into the graduate students because the graduate students have a demonstrated history. Again, circling back to the beginning of this discussion and conversation, you judge your future expectations based on past performance. So graduate students are the high performers. We're like the nerds who chose to stay in and study instead of getting laid and drinking all the time in both high school and in college. And so like as such, we typically tend to get like pushed forward in the process of anything having to do with academia. So this was sort of like a guttural, visceral, emotional shock for me, getting bumped out of a class because some straggling undergraduates who did not like plan decided that they wanted to take the class. It was just like, that was just unheard of to me. You could tell how spoiled I am, especially being in my first graduate program where they spoiled the shit out of us. So thank you, UW-Madison. I'm not hating on you, Arizona, at all. Trust me, I'm not. But it was just an interesting dynamic to see unfold. And I'm just hoping that at some point, as this MFA program evolves, we start to help drive home the importance of the graduate program and its students to all of the faculty and staff. Maybe not to the level where we're spoiled, but certainly to the level where we're not getting removed from classes that we've already registered for. Anyway, spent too much time on that topic and it's starting to sound a little whiny. But this is Graduate School Wisdom Week for us, for me. And so, to expect a certain level of treatment when you go into the graduate program. And I think that is about it. That's all I have for you guys today. Graduate school, some final words, some final thoughts. We will be recruiting for my new program. Actually, maybe it's not that new anymore, but it's relatively new. We will be recruiting for the next generation of students, I believe. Let's see, I graduate in the spring of 2019. So I believe we'll be accepting our first new cohort of students in the fall of 2019. So that means you would probably have to apply in the fall of 2018, spring of 2019 to get acceptance into the program. If you're interested, you should definitely check out the link below. I'm going to include it in the podcast notes. Look over the program, look over the course of study, see if you like it, and join up. I know I'm still like a little young in the program, and we do have a very small cohort. Like, we try to keep the cohort sizes small, so anywhere between 6 and 7 students. So applications will be competitive to get in for the second round, but I still encourage you guys to apply if you're looking for a nice combination of scholarly work as a dramaturg and artistic work as a dramaturg. Then this is a really great program for you. If you're looking for something more academic and scholarly, you should try other programs like, Yale, Columbia, like some of the older literary criticism programs and the older MA in dramaturgy programs that are out there. Those are more based on scholarly academic foundations and less artistic. In this program, we get a combination of both. We get the theory, the history, we get the background, we get the crit part, but we also get to produce shows of our own. We also get to work on shows as the resident dramaturg for that show. And in our program, I believe it's a requirement to work on the bigger ART shows, which are a part of our repertory. And we also have to work on the smaller, more indie, more guerrilla theater level studio shows, which are a part of our studio series. And the studio series, I don't say that to decree the studio series at all, because the studio series, in my opinion, have more exciting things going on at the theater level than our repertory shows have. Repertories, if you guys are familiar with theater at all, are basically doing like the tried and true stuff, the Shakespeare's, the Beckett's, the Brecht's, the canonical black theater theater makers, playwrights or whatever, the musicals, and so on and so forth. And also our repertory is specifically catered towards the BFA students who are musical theater majors, right? So, we have to have at least one musical every year, if not more than one. And so we have all these things going on, and you as a dramaturg in this program will be working on a repertory show and a studio series show. For a minimum of 6 credits, but then you can choose to work on more shows in between those two places, or you can even go to the local theaters in town who are doing other shows and dramaturg those shows. And we actually have some pretty good theaters in town, in my opinion, in terms of doing work that deal with the current social climate and political climate. We have the Borderlands Theater, which is always dealing with border issues, political issues, especially because like Arizona and Tucson particularly are very much on on or close to the border. So dealing with like a lot of issues around that. We have a lot of theaters here that deal with American Indian and Native American issues. So if you want to get into things that are more socially and politically involved, the community theaters are the really great ones. We also have the Rogue Theater, which is not necessarily politically leaning, but they are very adventurous. They are very just down as fuck, actually. I mean, if I can be vulgar with it. And I mean that in like with the highest compliments. Because they really try to take on some challenging work with a cast that is sometimes hard to cast. So to give you an example, they're putting on Barbaceta's Celia a Slave, which I read last year in one of my classes. I loved it. And now the Rogue that is located in Tucson, Arizona, is putting it on. And it's mostly a black cast, which is pretty much impossible to get in Tucson. If you guys know anything about Tucson or Arizona, Arizona is a really white state, with actually a huge community of American Indian and Mexican populations, which is great. But there are literally, like, I think 3% black people in this entire state. So to get an all black cast for, like, a production like this is pretty incredible. So lots of snaps to the Rogue Theater for doing that and just staying true to the source material, to the casting. Thank you for not whitewashing your cast. Even if, like, they would be actors playing these roles, it's important to see the black bodies on stage, especially dealing with this narrative of this slave who revolted and rebelled and murdered her slave master because he was continually raping her even while she was pregnant. And having that story be so close to, for me personally, my own historical leanings and, like, origins in this country as an African American woman. Just sticking as closely to those stories as possible makes me just feel very, I don't know, appreciative and humbled and happy with the Rogue for all the work that they did. I mean, I heard that casting for this was really difficult because, like, there aren't many, like, black actors in Tucson. So I'm going to go see that. And that's just to introduce you to the kind of work that's being done in the community, in graduate school, in our MFA program. So if things at the repertory are not really quite your cup of tea, there are other places to go, if you ever want to come here and study. So that's about it. I'm not going to keep rambling. I need to go and start my day and start catching up with all the work that that I have to do and that I haven't been doing because I've been sick. But it's been great being back. This is supposed to be a short podcast, but I rambled on. But hopefully you got some gems about graduate school, what to expect, and my experiences in the first week. And I will see you guys next week when I'm a little bit less tired and more energized. Okay? So I will see you guys soon. And stay strong, stay creative, stay indie, stay badass. Bye.